Jason there. Great game. 50 seconds to go. Hurts. Deep shot. Hold in, Devontae.
Sure. And before the press conferences even start. I mean, we could talk for 45 minutes just about how atrocious the defense is.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Trending in the AM right here on DSM Media Live. As always, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, you know the drill. Smash that like and share button, hit that retweet button on Twitter, and make sure you head over to the Facebook or YouTube page so you can interact with the show directly. Easiest way to get your comments up on the screen, just like that. These examples here, hashtag do something major, hashtag set the trends. That's what we do here at Trending in the AM. That's what we do here at DSM Media. We set the trends and we do something major every single day. I am Phil Stifler, your host, joined by my partner. He's back in the saddle today, Jason Voorhees, at Mustang 3, one for him, at Bearded Knowledge for me. Jason, how you doing this morning?
Doing good, man. How about you?
Ah, fantastic. You know, I'm over. You weren't part of the overreaction Monday yesterday. I was a little hungover yesterday. I got through it. But today, I'm feeling good, rejuvenated, back with my main man as my co-host this morning. Yeah, I'm ready to rock and roll this morning.
Yeah, I heard it was a great show yesterday. I obviously,
I think Mark kicked ass yesterday. Mark, has been doing it now for a couple of weeks with us here on Mondays, and he's getting used to being on camera and on the mic regularly. He's doing a fantastic job. I'm glad he's part of the morning show team here that we're building here. We're brought to you here at Trending in the AM and all shows on DSM Media by Manscaped, the leader in men's grooming products. Check them out. Manscaped.com. They're the ghost and below the waist maintenance. Use promo code DSM at checkout. It gets you 20% off free shipping and lets them know Team DSM sent you. So Manscaped.com, promo code DSM. All right, we got a jam-packed show today, Jason. We got lots and lots of topics to cram into 1 hour today. All right, we're going to talk Major League Baseball to start. We're going to talk about I know you texted me. I didn't even see the article. I might have missed it if you didn't send me the message about steroid testing being on hold. We're going to talk that today. We are going to talk the NBA trade deadline again because tonight could potentially be the last Sixers game with Ben Simmons drama hanging over our head. And we're going to kind of talk about whether what we think the odds are that this is the last time we have to, worry or deal with that. And then we're going to get into Super Bowl talk. We're going to start talking about the game a little bit itself. And I want to talk, yesterday we talked Super Bowl halftime shows. So I do want to get your favorite halftime show out of you today. But also, so today's fun Super Bowl topic is I want to talk about the announcers and our favorite announced teams that have called the Super Bowl recently and, overall. So we got lots of topics to jam in, and we're going to talk with baseball. So obviously, the news broke yesterday that Major League Baseball, because of the lockout, is no longer testing players for steroids right now. And I know a lot of people are up in arms about it, and I can see you shaking your head already. So obviously, you're a little upset about this, are you not?
I mean, I don't want to say I'm upset, so to speak, but I mean, I don't understand it. Apparently, the agreement ended. I guess because of the lockout, but
yes, the agreement has ended because of the lockout.
Apparently, it's called the drug agreement. I guess they have, different chapters in obviously in their constitution or whatever they want to call it, but the drug agreement expired. But I kind of find it asinine that you just 2 weeks ago had the situation where, Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens don't get inducted into the Hall of Fame because of steroid use. And now all of a sudden you are not testing for steroid. Like, I think this league is just a joke, Phil. Like, that's why I'm shaking my head. Major League Baseball to me is an absolute joke, and that's why I'm up in arms. I've been this way for a while, not just with the Phillies, but baseball in general. And I think it ends and starts with the commissioner. I know it's not that we disagreed, but I kind of was very critical of Roger Goodell, and you said, well, he's doing his job. Well, I think it's kind of the opposite with the Major League Baseball commissioner. I think the guy ducks a lot of situations, and he causes a lot of the issues that happen in this league. So I don't know where you stand on that.
Yeah, I mean, first off, on the drug testing thing, I mean, I understand it. If I was a player, I wouldn't be subjecting myself to to drug testing, under, anything, because they've locked us out. You know what I mean? They're risking, if you got a contract and the contract expires, you no longer have to follow through. So the people that are overreacting to the drug testing, in my opinion, need to slow down and realize that when a contract expires, you no longer have to follow what you want to drug test us? Well, present us a better contract. Instead of not negotiating in good faith, like the owners and the players, both of them are not negotiating in good faith right now. Instead, the owners are like, let's get a mediator, a federal mediator in here, or arbitrator, to help us. Instead of doing that, just come to the table and present a real, give a little bit. The players have given a little bit on their side. The owners need to give a little bit on their side. So if you don't want to do that, and I saw some people posting things on social media about, this is purposely being done by ownership to allow them to juice up so that they know there's going to be a long lockout. And the last time there was a big strike, the steroid era saved baseball. So this is like the owner's way of realizing it. No, there's no drug testing simply because there is no contract. That is all it is. But again, it goes back to the owners and the players having such a, distaste for each other right now. And the fact that these negotiations are going on the way they are, that, I mean, if the owners said, hey guys, we still want to test you, but they were negotiating in good faith and we were on like a path to seeing the start of the season, the players might agree to that. But since there's no good faith between the owners and the players, why would the players go get tested? Why? There's no point to it.
No, I got what you're saying, and I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm not necessarily, pissed off. Obviously, I'm not upset with the players. I get it. Right. It's a contract. I'm more upset overall with the whole situation with Major League Baseball and the fact that, in the beginning of this, I'm generally a pessimist, and I say this all the time, but I was believing that this was going to be a short-lived lockout and that they were going to kind of get it done quickly, knowing the backlash that they will get if this continues on, and if we end up missing spring training or missing part of the season, and what it all comes down to is, we've talked about this before. It's called greed on both ends, on both sides. It's like Major League Baseball, like the owners will only give, an inch. And then the players say, well, we'll give you another millimeter. And then, well, we'll give you a centimeter. Like
what's smaller than a millimeter,
It's called like the negotiating, parameters are like
any real negotiation between sports, between businesses, between anything in life. When you are negotiating, there has to be good faith negotiations on both sides. And in baseball right now, and I'm like you, I said it from day one. I'm like, there's no way we're going to miss one practice of training camp. Nothing. We weren't going to miss anything in spring training. And now I saw an article. I forget who wrote it. One of the blue check marks that cover baseball wrote an article. They don't see the season start until June 1st. And it's going to be like a 100-game season. If that happens, we'll cover the Phillies on this show because that's what we do. Let me tell you something. My love, baseball's my love. It's my number one sport. Always has been. First tattoo, Phillies tattoo. Baseball's going to really fall down my level of love if they can't get together and solve this quickly. It just, the lack of good faith between these owners and these players, it's pathetic.
I just think it's, like I said, I think it's a little ironic that, Bonds and Clemens get kind of denied. And now all of a sudden this happened. Like, it's just.
Yeah, I see what you're trying to do and what you're trying to say, but I think it's just a mere coincidence.
Well, whether it's a coincidence or not.
What about the mediator, the baseball owners saying they want like an arbitrator to help negotiate? The players are saying, no, that's stupid. They did not agree to that because they think the owners aren't negotiating in good faith. And a lot of the big name, what's really funny? A lot of the big name players that have made hundreds of millions of dollars are the ones that are speaking out and holding out and don't care. Like Max Scherzer's out there, making comments.
Exactly.
Max Scherzer's made $200 million. What I want to hear from the guys that are making baseball's minimum salary speaking out or what they think on this situation. The whole entire board of the Players Association is made up by the superstars. Yes, and they have the biggest platform to get their points out to the public. But do they care if they miss 6 months of a season? They've already made $100 million in their career.
Here's what's funny to me. And I heard a lot of like Phillies fans.
We got lots of football talk later. Come back if you don't want to talk baseball or basketball. Come back in the second half of the show. We got lots of football talk on the horizon.
Oh man, I love George. George, thank you for watching. You are one of the best fans we have, and we appreciate you. No, what I was saying is that I find it kind of funny that a lot of Phillies fans were, clamoring and saying and arguing with me because I know this team and I know the ownership, but you could sit there and have everybody obviously has their opinion, but there's a lot of people out there that were saying, oh, the Phillies are going to sign Schwarber, the Phillies are going to sign Schwarber, like Phillies are going to sign all these extra guys. And I just find it funny that the longer that this goes, like, how are teams even going to sign these free agents? Like, there's going to be no time, literally. They're going to like end the lockout, and then season starts, and you're going to have a ton of people that are free agents. And what are they going to play the season with guys that aren't even signed? Like, to me, I just think this whole thing is asinine. And as a baseball fan, I was already pissed off about this Hall of Fame thing. I mean, I'm sorry. I know I keep harping on it, but that has me pissed off already. And I know that's not baseball per se in general, because a lot of it has to do with the writers being the ones that vote. But I'm just pissed off with baseball. And this just makes me even more pissed off seeing things like this. And it's just, to me, I don't understand why they can't just realize like how, and I don't know if it's that they don't realize it, because I think a lot of them already said it, how, fans are going to they're going to lose fans again. Like if this goes longer. Well, if you know that, then just come to the table and say, okay, here's the deal. We'll give you this. You give us that. And then call it a day. Like
I keep going back to that arbitration player pool thing. The players said that they wanted $105 million, whatever it was, player pool for arbitration players, for the top arbitration players. Okay. So the owners are like, all right, we'll give you $10 million. So then the players came down from 105 to 104. So the owners went up from 10 to 11. I mean, we're not talking about real negotiations. If the players wanted 110 and the owners wanted 10, somebody had to come down to 75. Someone needed to come up to 45. Moving that needle a micrometer, as George says, that's not good faith negotiating. That's just being like, F you, I don't really care.
Greedy. It's called greed.
On both sides, though. It's not just the owners. The players are the same way. At both sides need to be able to come to an agreement on these things. And it's a shame because, honestly, like I said, I forget who said they expect a June 1st start to the season. Can you imagine how empty, especially in the smaller markets, baseball stadiums will be this year if they wait till June 1st to settle this?
I'm not going to lie, dude. I won't go.
I probably won't spend my money either. If somebody gives me tickets, sure. But I'm not going to go and spend $20, $30 on a ticket, $50 on parking, $100 on one beer. I'm not going to invest $200 to go out for a day to do a baseball game to support these billionaire owners that have no good faith whatsoever.
I think I'm like probably in the minority, but I'm one of these people that have realized that, and I know I'm only one man. So in the scheme of things, my money doesn't mean shit because they have, they make millions. Right. But when I don't like what's going on with my sports team, there's only one real way to ever make a difference or, make yourself happy in the situation. And that's not go.
Yeah.
I've done it with the Flyers. I'm not going to lie, dude. I don't watch them. I will not buy tickets, and I will not buy another jersey. The last jersey that I bought was Carter Hart, and that will probably be the last jersey I have until this thing gets turned around. And I don't care. Like, if that sounds like I'm being like, a baby or an arrogant prick, no, that's just how I feel. I am not going to spend my money for a product that I feel is inferior and to an organization that I feel doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Because that's what it comes down to. Like, I see organizations that do care, and I'm jealous. Like, I look at other organizations that year in and year out, either spend money or have the right programs in place to have their teams, be successful for, the long haul. And I don't see it on most of the Philadelphia teams. Like the Eagles, as much as I get pissed off about the Eagles, I got to say, like, I mean, even when, since Andy Reid, like this team generally has winning seasons. So the Eagles generally try to get it right. They might not do the right things all the time, and they might suck at the draft, but at least they care.
Right.
I don't see the Phillies caring. I don't see the Flyers caring, and somewhat the Sixers. Like the Sixers,
great transition.
I think the owner is part of that problem, but
he owns the New Jersey Devils. I mean, how do you own two different sports teams in two different competing cities that hate each other? The Devils hate the Flyers, but yet you own the Sixers. Yeah, that's crazy. But let's transition. Let's move on from baseball. Let's talk Sixers tonight. The Sixers play the Phoenix Suns, the best team in basketball right now. They're on pace to win like 67 games this year. They're an amazing team. They're coming off a back-to-back. They played last night in Chicago. They got to fly to Philly tonight. So we stand a chance. But the question is, will this be the last game? Because the Sixers don't play again until Friday after the trade deadline. Will this be the last game, Jason, that Ben Simmons is a part of the Sixers organization? It's a tough question. Every single 5 hours, my opinion on this topic changes.
Well, that's part of the problem because my heart wants it to be. But I want it to be so bad. I really want Harden. I love James Harden. I've always loved the guy. I know he's a little older, but I don't care because to me, he's still elite. I could just picture him with Embiid, and that's all I keep picturing. And I've seen all the memes with the beards and the two guys. I just picture it, but I think it's a little too good to be true. And here's my concern. My concern is that I see Daryl Morey and I see the game that he's playing. He's playing kind of the middle. He's willing to go the long game, but he knows realistically that we really should go the short game.
Mark saying it happens tonight.
Well, that's bold.
Not even wait till Thursday. It's happening tonight.
I'm just concerned. I don't want to give up Maxey, and I know that sounds crazy.
That's not crazy.
It's we need to win now for Embiid's, the window. But to me, the growth that Maxey has shown, even in 1 year, and where he's at just now, if he makes that growth in another year, next year, then he is that player that you kind of want with Embiid, and Embiid is still in his prime. So I don't want to give up Maxey. I would be willing to give up anyone other than Maxey.
So you'd be willing to give up James Harden to get, or Joel Embiid to get James Harden?
No. Okay.
You said anybody but Maxey.
Okay. Anyone other than Maxey and Embiid, I would be willing to give up to get Harden. And even if it was Tobias, and I love Tobias, I know a lot of people are down on Tobias. I'd be willing to give him up if that's what it took to get James Harden, because I think James Harden changes this team's, chances this year. I think you get James Harden, Sixers can win the championship this year. I don't know if they can win a championship without making a deal.
George saying he wants it to just happen so that people stop talking about it. And I get that. I think this Ben Simmons drama is 10 times more nauseating and frustrating and insane. And I'm sick and tired of talking it too. More so than the Carson Wentz drama. Literally, whether we're talking about the Carson Wentz Hurts or Carson Wentz Foles, that was nauseating to have those conversations day in and day out, week in and week out. This is 10 times more frustrating. That's why I want him gone. I literally am at the point where I just want him shipped out of town. So when we talk basketball, we could just talk basketball and not Ben Simmons and all the different rumors. Every day there's 5 new rumors. If you asked me yesterday, I thought it was going to get done. This morning, I'm like, maybe it's not going to get done now. And I'm just sick and tired of it. I'm just done with it. I want it over with so bad.
Did you ever foresee a situation that could be worse than that Wentz situation? Because I thought that was maybe one of the worst.
That was the worst thing I've ever had to talk about week in and week out was Carson Wentz. Whether it was drama, whether you should go with Nick Foles or him, or then last year with him and Hurts, and then this offseason, would he get traded or not, or be brought back? Dude, it was 10 times. That was probably one of my most frustrating times talking on shows, was dealing with that topic. I even banned his name from all my shows for a 3-month span. And Ben Simmons is taking the cake on it.
Well, I saw reports. So apparently, like in the locker room, quote unquote, the Nets organization is looking at this situation as Ben Simmons being the lesser of two evils compared to James Harden. And that's
Right.
why they're kind of maybe willing to move off of him this year. They're going to lose him regardless. Like, it's obvious that he's not happy. And I know that there's always two sides to a story. And I know that the coach came out and said, no, we want James Harden. And and other people in the organization
Kind of has to say that, though.
Yeah, exactly. It's coach speak. It's the way that people act when there's the trade deadline. I mean, shit. We've heard coaches in this thing say, oh, someone's going to be back. We saw an owner say that Doug Peterson was going to be back, and 5 minutes later he was fired. I mean,
right.
It's just what happens during these times.
Right.
But with that being said, I also know that the Nets aren't just ridiculously stupid. Well, maybe they are, but if they're not living under a rock, they have to know that the Sixers are they're going to make the Sixers pay is what I'm getting at. They're not going to just say, oh, give us, Ben Simmons, we'll give you Harden and call it a day.
Unfortunately, the people that are saying that they could do that, it's not going to happen.
I know. And that's because the Nets know that the Sixers really need to make a deal. Like, they know that the Sixers have Simmons sitting around doing nothing. He's not playing. He's not coming back. Like, so realistically, the leverage really is still with the Nets, like, at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't see, like I said, I've changed every day. Like, yesterday,
I've changed every 5 hours. You've changed my opinion again in the last 5 minutes.
I don't see it happening. I think it's going to end up being where we go through and nothing happens because it doesn't get done. Because I think they're going to want Maxey. I think that's where we're at. And I think I'm happy if that happens because I don't want to give up Maxey. And then we get Harden next year. And we kind of maybe get maybe Thursday we make like a last minute tweak and get it,
which I said yesterday on
you
yesterday's
call it an
show.
ancillary piece. You always use that word.
Yeah, you're stealing my word. Don't steal my words. My wife steals my words all the time. I said it yesterday on the show that I think the ancillary moves, the bench moves, are more important. If we don't get James Harden, if we don't trade Ben Simmons and this goes into the offseason, the bench moves. If you go out and upgrade the bench, go get a backup point guard to back up Maxey, upgrade Furkan Korkmaz so that he doesn't have to play 20 minutes a game. If you upgrade those pieces, and I don't know, I'm going to try to maybe tonight or tomorrow do some research to see who's on the block that could help us in that role. Maxey, Embiid, and Tobias with an upgraded bench could make a run at the title. Not needing George Niang to play 30 minutes, Furkan Korkmaz to play 20 minutes off the bench. That's what's holding this team back from being really good to being great. Not getting, James Harden. James Harden obviously would help. But I would say the bench pieces, because it wouldn't affect the chemistry of your core by just upgrading the bench a little bit. You go and you trade whoever and bring in James Harden. All of a sudden, your core has to work in 40 minutes a game for James Harden. Whatever that does to it.
Well, yeah, let's face it. You've come this far without Simmons, and you're the second team in the East. And you just beat the Bulls, who are the first team in the East. So you definitely are – you're definitely better than where I thought they were going to be. Like, honestly, in the beginning of the year when this went down and Simmons was out, I thought that the Sixers were going to be in trouble. Like, I really did. I did personally. Right. I mean, I don't know what other, obviously I'm not the super knowledgeable basketball guy.
Right, so this time tomorrow when we come on the air, Mark says it happens tonight. Will Ben Simmons, as of this moment, be on the Sixers by Thursday, 4 p.m.?
Yes.
Yes or no? He will be on the Sixers Thursday night after the trade deadline. You're saying no. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to ask you the same question, and you might say, no, he's going to be, your mood might change by tomorrow morning. But I agree. I think
that's because reports keep coming out, too, and a lot of times, the problem is there's so many reports, and it's, like, hard to tell. I listen to
two people, but the problem is the two people I trust the most have two completely different opinions.
Exactly.
Wojnarowski, the Woj bombs, says that he's not getting traded, that Harden and the Nets are not trading, for Ben Simmons. And then you got Shams, who is another very respected person, but he's saying it's happening. You got Woj saying that the front office doesn't want to get rid of Harden. You got Shams saying that James Harden wants out. You got, and I talked about this yesterday. It's like Woj's, sources are front office. Shams' sources is the locker room and the players. And which one is right? And probably both are right. You have to find some middle ground, just like baseball has to negotiate in the middle there You got to find some middle ground there. And
Isn't
know.
it true that Shams has the same agent as Clutch, or
I think so. Yeah, I
is
believe
connected
so. Yeah.
to Clutch? So that's kind of another wrinkle in it.
Yeah, that is a little wrinkle there. Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying, like, this shit happens, and they've been talking about how all these reports come out, and it's always two sides, and it's generally fed by the agents. Like the agents are the ones telling them, say this, say this, say this. Like,
absolutely.
So it's hard to get an actual legit perspective of where we're at. Now, I did hear a report over the weekend from a pretty viable New Jersey report, like a Nets reporter, that was saying that there is a deal on the table that involved, and it wasn't involving Maxey. It was actually it was Simmons, Tobias Harris, and Isaiah Joe for some other for Harden, and like two guys. I don't know basketball, so I don't know the guys on the Nets.
I didn't see that. I thought you were going to talk about because there was a rumor going around yesterday that it was Seth Curry they wanted with Ben Simmons, not Maxey. So there's so many rumors like that. I don't know which ones I buy. Let's wrap up Sixers talk here. They play the Suns tonight. This is actually a good game for them. The Suns are coming off of back-to-back road games, which is extremely difficult to do. Back-to-back road games in the NBA. It's a good litmus test. We just beat a Bulls team that wasn't quite at full strength. But the Suns team is at full strength. They are the best team above and beyond in the NBA right now. Will we win? I don't know. Will we be able to compete with them? I mean, we are the favorite because we're the home team and they're on the back-to-back. We're a 1-point favorite at this point in this game. This is like kind of the moment. Mark says that the Ben Simmons trade happens today. What Daryl Morey does between now and Thursday afternoon, tonight's game could tell him, dude, we hung with the Nets. Maybe if we improve the bench, we got this. Or no, we didn't even come close to beating the Suns tonight. So we better go get James Harden and do whatever it takes. Like, this is the type of game that you see where you stack up, not against a mediocre team, but the elite of the elite. And this is a game that you could really judge a lot. The Wells Fargo Center will be packed and jumping tonight. The crowd will be rowdy. You got the best team against your Joel Embiid, the MVP. This is that game that you can make a judge. And I actually think the Sixers can come out and make a statement and win tonight.
Oh, I agree. I think it's a good game at a good time. It's a good parameter, to tell you your team where you're at. Right. I looked at the Suns last year, and I actually picked the Suns to go to the finals. Like, they were my kind of sleeper, and I know they didn't kind of get that far, but they have shown me this year that they're definitely a team to be reckoned with. So I think it's definitely a good measuring stick for the Sixers. I think they could come. Listen, I told you last week. I think the way that Embiid is playing this season, I think they can beat anyone on any given day if he has his A game, because he's just killing it as far as
he has his A game. Like the other years, his A game was sometimes and not other. His A game is 99% of the time every single night.
Exactly.
So he's playing fantastic basketball right now. What's up, man? How you doing today? Welcome to the show. All right, so that's the end of basketball. Half hour into the show, we got through basketball. It's time to get to football. We're going to talk a lot of Super Bowl, but I do want to say all head coaching positions are now officially filled. Dennis Allen, defensive coordinator from the Saints, promoted to head coach yesterday. He was the interim head coach during Sean Payton's last disappearance when he was suspended for the season. And then he gets another shot at the job, which is really good. Really happy for him. I mean, he's a really good – the Saints defense has pretty much carried that team the last couple of years. A really good defensive coordinator. It's really crazy. The last two spots were filled by defensive coordinators, which this league has been nothing but going for offensive-minded head coaches. And the last two spots, the Saints and the Texans hiring Lovie Smith, which I think is an actual fantastic hire for a bunch of reasons. And I started talking about that yesterday. It also keeps Jonathan Gannon in Philadelphia, which is actually a good thing, not a bad thing like a lot of people think. Jonathan Gannon staying here is a good thing. So your thoughts on Dennis Allen and Lovie Smith getting those last two head coaching spots?
Well, I mean, the Saints obviously go with the sure guy, the guy they know.
Right.
I don't think it's necessarily a mistake for a team to hire within and promote within. I think sometimes it's good. I mean, you got to look at every situation differently. I agree with your assessment. I am a little surprised that, they went defensive side of the ball. But if you look at the Saints' strength, it is their defense. And I think a lot of times, if you want to improve your team as far as a coach, you don't necessarily have to go with the trends. Like, I know the trend is go offense, but to me, I think you go the best guy that's going to be able to run the team. Because to me, I don't think the coach is always necessarily the end all when it comes to, a team's success. I mean, we saw it with the Eagles. Doug Peterson, to me, I want my coach to be a leader of men. That's what a good coach should do. Run the team, not necessarily have a superstar skill set on either side of the ball. I'm looking at a coach or a manager. You run a pizza shop. Your skill is not necessarily to make the pizzas. Not that you can't, you're great at it. But your skill is to make sure that everybody does what they're supposed to do and lead that unit. Same goes for coaching. So to me, I think you want a guy that's going to be a leader. And I look at that Saints defense, and every year they're up in the upper ranks of the league. So to me, he's doing something right in that position. I think this is kind of the next progression. Like, to me, what can it hurt? Like, if the Saints struggle, then they go and they get another guy. But at least for this year, it's kind of a transition for them. They lost Drew Brees, so they're kind of not ready to win now anyway. I like it. I like that. I also did like the Lovie. I saw a lot of people bashing the Lovie Smith move, saying it was only done because that the league wanted to save face with this whole Brian Flores situation. I kind of disagree with that, but
Agreed.
I mean, maybe there's some truth to it. But I think
they're probably, if you were going to go Jonathan Gannon or Lovie Smith, they went Lovie Smith. Maybe I could buy some of that argument. But the Lovie Smith thing is kind of like was it Dusty Baker that got hired to coach the Astros after that whole fiasco? You go out and get, like, the Texans are in a transition right now. The Texans just as much as Brian Flores being fired was a surprise. Finally, firing David Culley, after him winning 4 games with that disaster of a team, was a big shock and surprise. They shouldn't have fired him. So this team's in kind of like a state. You got the Deshaun Watson controversy surrounding this team. You got a team in flux, all that kind of stuff. So you go get a veteran guy like Lovie Smith he's been a head coach multiple times before. He's been around the league for massive amounts of years. I mean, he's a career coach. That veteran leadership can help navigate all the controversies that are going on in their city and in the league right now. He's not going to, when he goes to the podium to be introduced, he's not going to be nervous about answering questions about Brian Flores or anybody else. And that's what I love about. Plus, he's got a really kick-ass beard. So that is also a great reason why I love him. But yeah, no, I believed he deserved another chance to be a head coach. And I just think that they made the right pick, because Jonathan Gannon, against popular belief, is going to be a head coach. He didn't make it this year. He might be a head coach after next season. But do you want a guy that's had 1 year as a defensive coordinator and no time as a head coach in that situation? Or do you want the guy that's been around the league for a long time?
I mean, that's a no-brainer. I mean, obviously, you and I kind of have differing opinions on Jonathan Gannon.
Yeah.
I do agree with your assessment that he does deserve another chance with an improved roster, because let's face it, the Eagles defense, not too good as far as roster. But that being said, I think Lovie Smith is definitely the right move for a multitude of reasons. You pretty much touched on all of them, so you said what I was going to say. Thanks.
So I do want to address George's comments. George is saying that he wasn't a candidate. So he's basically saying the Flores situation is why Lovey got the job, because they wanted McCown. And I get what you're saying. So the way I kind of talk myself through that situation, they wanted Josh McCown. They the Flores situation happened. So we better interview somebody else. They interviewed Lovie Smith. And then maybe after they interviewed Lovie Smith, whatever Lovie Smith said made them realize that maybe Josh McCown isn't. So yes, maybe the Flores situation got Lovie Smith the interview, but maybe, just maybe, Lovie Smith said the right things in that interview to convince Houston front office, actually, maybe we're wrong on the Josh McCown thing. Lovie Smith is the right guy. They didn't just give him the job because of Brian Flores.
Okay, and here's where I'm at with it. even if the Brian Flores situation did influence their decision, is that
interview him?
Yeah, but is that wrong? Like, to me, that to me,
what Brian Flores did.
I think what Brian Flores did is he wants change in the league. So if what he did already affected change and got a guy hired that probably did deserve it over McCown, let's face it, like, just because McCown, like, let's not look at the color aspect of it. I and that's the problem. I think too many people are now focused on that. Let's look at let's look at the guy. You have Lovie Smith, who already has been a coach, who's been there, done it. I think he was unfairly kind of treated himself in that he didn't really get a chance to show what he could do, versus Josh McCown, who just retired, has never been a coach on any NFL level.
At any level, period.
Exactly.
Or a coordinator or
exactly.
So Peterson interned for a little while.
So this is where I'm at. That's what frustrates me. So to me, if you take those two guys and you say, who is the better candidate? Who has more experience? Well, hello, it's definitely Lovie Smith. So if Brian Flores' situation enacted change already, hey, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and I get what you're saying, George, but I really think that the interview happened because of Flores, and I'm going to go with that. You say, is that what you're going with? Yeah, I'm going with that. He got the interview because of Flores. Maybe he got the job because of Flores too, but the Flores situation, getting him the interview, the Flores situation, kind of trying to, I don't want to say twisting the Texans, helped make the Texans make the right decision versus the wrong decision. Now, it could be wrong. Lovie Smith could bomb in Houston. Josh McCown could go somewhere else and get a head coaching job and end up becoming a superstar head coach. We don't know what 5 years from now is going to be, 3 years from now is going to happen. But at this moment, it's the right decision. Whatever got the Texans to the right decision, it really doesn't matter at this point. It's the right decision for that team to bring in that veteran coach in that position. And that's what I'm getting at with it and all.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're 100% right. I think me and you agree. And listen,
Josh McCown should not be even a Jonathan Gannon. You want to tell me that Jonathan Gannon, like, I agree that he deserved interviews. I think he's a better coach than people give him credit for. But you can tell, if you're going to tell me Josh McCown was getting more hype as a potential head coach than Jonathan Gannon, that's the problem. Josh McCown should not be getting consideration for head coaching jobs at this point.
No, because he doesn't deserve it. He hasn't earned it. He has not earned it.
He hasn't even tried to earn it yet. I don't get it. I just don't get the whole Josh McCown thing at all. I just think the whole Josh McCown thing in Houston was because, I mean, even when we signed Josh McCown, the year after he played for us, he was signed to our practice squad, but was allowed to hang out in Houston. He wants to stay in that Houston, Texas area because that's where his family is. That's where his kids are. I think he helps coach his kids' football team.
Yeah, and that's his extent of coaching. That's where I was going with that.
Like, Josh McCown wants to be in Texas, and he's got really strong roots there. And I don't get it. I mean, I don't want to talk anymore about that topic. I don't. I want to get on the Super Bowl. We have this big game. We got this big game happening this week called the Super Bowl. So I want to spend about 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes. Actually, we haven't actually talked the game itself yet this week, or even much last week. And I was reading articles trying to come up with a topic to discuss to start the actual Super Bowl talk, which we're going to talk it tomorrow. We're going to talk it on Thursday. I'm already compiling a list of guests for Friday. I've got 2 confirmed guests already for Friday to really talk about it. So the theory that I want to start with, is the Bengals and the youth. You got Josh McCown. I'm still thinking of Josh McCown. Joe Burrow. You got Mixon. You got Chase. You got Higgins. You got all this youth on the Bengals. But is there pressure on the Rams to win this game? And it's not because of the youth of the Bengals and the veterans on the Rams want to lose to the youth of the Bengals. It's Matthew Stafford. It's Aaron Donald. It's Odell Beckham. There's a lot of veteran guys in the middle to later part of their careers that winning a Super Bowl changes their career, reputation. Matthew Stafford's a really good quarterback, but hasn't won a Super Bowl yet. Hasn't played in a Super Bowl yet. Winning a Super Bowl takes him from maybe a Hall of Famer to a little bit closer to the Hall of Fame. Odell Beckham goes from that diva that couldn't win or be on winning teams to changing his personality and helping lead a team to a Super Bowl. Aaron Donald, one of the freaks on defense, one of the greatest defensive players of all time, but he doesn't have a Super Bowl. So I'm looking at the reputation of the Rams and their veterans on their team. Is this game that important for them? You know, that there's added pressure to them now.
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely. To me, when a team is as young as the Bengals and they make the Super Bowl, the Bengals to me are a team that's going to be there for the next 10 years. Like, they have a roster that's so good, like as far as young guys and youth, they're set up forever. So to me, the fact that they're already there, yes, there's always pressure on any team that makes the Super Bowl. But to me, you take the Rams versus the Bengals and who has more pressure on them, it's absolutely the Rams. I mean, the Rams have traded all their first-round picks. They have no picks
for the next 47 years.
They have a roster that's probably right at the salary cap. I mean, literally, they probably have zero money. They have every reason to. I mean, honestly, like, and you hit on it, like Matt Stafford, like, it's crazy, and I don't want to come out and give my predictions, but I am going to kind of give my rooting interest. I am actually. A lot of people are rooting for the Bengals in this because the flashy Joe Burrow and all the young kids. And listen, I love them. I love Joe Burrow. I love Jamar Chase. I mean, they're probably two of my favorite players right now in the league. But my rooting interest, I'm rooting for the Rams. And there's one reason. Well, there's a couple of reasons, but you hit on it. The main reason is Matt Stafford, because I'm a guy that's always been big on Matt Stafford. I think this is going to be his coming out party. He wins the Super Bowl and now he has the ring, and then he can, kind of, say, yes, I am a great quarterback. Because unfortunately, no matter what he's done, he still gets criticized because of that. And that happens with a lot of quarterbacks in this league. I mean, unfortunately, I look at a guy like Dan Marino with the Miami Dolphins. Only won one Super Bowl, only went to one Super Bowl.
Yeah, never
but
won.
He's still
early, and it was early in his career.
But he's still an all-time great. When you look at Matt Stafford kind of doesn't get that same, thing. Now, I'm not saying
I used the wrong word. Maybe the word I meant to say then with Aaron or with Matthew Stafford and all those guys was maybe a sense of urgency. Is that maybe a better word for what this
definitely a better word. I mean, I think
sense of urgency
definitely has a sense of urgency, but I think that's why the Rams went and got Stafford, because the Rams already have a good team. Obviously a superstar team. They have names, galore. I mean, you didn't even mention the cornerback Ramsey. I mean, I forgot that to me is going to be a fun matchup. Jalen Ramsey on Jamar Chase is going to be one of the all-time.
I mean, that's one of my keys to the game is for Joe Burrow to find whatever wide receiver is not being covered by Jalen Ramsey. And I'll be honest, I don't watch that many Rams games. I don't know if Ramsey is a guy that travels or stays on one side. I honestly don't know that. But if he stays on one side, then whoever's on the other side you go to. If he travels wherever Jamar Chase goes, then you go wherever Higgins and Boyd are. That's like a massive key to the game. Can Joe Burrow find the other wide receiver? But the sense of urgency for Matthew Stafford, the sense of urgency, because let's be honest, like you said, and we've said it 100 times, the Rams don't have first round picks for 117 years. They're probably up against the cap. Probably. This Rams team is built to win a Super Bowl now, maybe next year, but this team won't be able to stay together like this long term because of all different reasons. So my whole thought process there is that the sense of urgency that is on the Rams, and we don't know how Matthew Stafford's going to handle that pressure. We don't know how, Sean McVay's going to handle that. It's all about that pressure because of the sense of urgency. And I think that's the number one key to this game is how the Rams handle that pressure from the sense of urgency.
Well, yeah, and if you look at the game plan, the Bengals obviously struggle with protecting the quarterback. I mean, if there is one Achilles heel for the Bengals, it's the fact that Joe Burrow's been sacked a ton of times, and obviously last year it led to that injury, unfortunately. I think that if the Rams can put pressure on Joe Burrow, it could change the outcome of the game, and I think it will be definitely a whoever wins the turnover battle wins the game type of game. Like whoever has, if Joe Burrow throws a pick, Joe Burrow's actually been very good in the playoffs as far as, not throwing interceptions. But if Joe Burrow throws a pick or two here, that could change the whole trajectory of the game. Like, that's where I'm at with this game. Like, I think both teams are very good. I think it's going to be an offensive type game. I think in the beginning it will kind of be a slower game, like where they feel each other out. But I think it'll kind of end up being like the rest of these playoff games we've seen, amazing games. Every single, round has been amazing. I like that.
George's comment here. You say the blitzing and the sacking of Joe Burrow. That's what, the Rams do. Well, the best way to counter that is by handing your ball off to your great running back in Joe Mixon. You don't want to get Joe Burrow crushed back there. You hand the ball. So a balanced, offensive game plan is a major key. Absolutely a major key to this game, because you want to see Joe Burrow not on his back the whole entire game.
Now it's funny that George says that, because I agree with that, but we've seen a lot in this town where the head coach a lot of times ignores the run. Like, obviously it took Sirianni 6-7 weeks to finally listen to the fans that were clamoring for that for 7 weeks. Right. Will the young coach in Cincinnati adapt that philosophy, knowing that, obviously they're going to be keying on Jamar Chase and that passing game. And obviously Joe Burrow, the young stud, wants to throw. Like, Joe Burrow is coming into this game is going to want to have it be a passing game. That. Like, that's just what these athletes do. I mean, they have a lot of pride. Mm-hmm. Will the coach be able to say, no, we're going to make this a running game and kind of, go that route? That these are all questions that we don't know yet. Obviously, we're going to have to wait till Sunday. But there is a lot of excitement for me in this game. I'm glad that, it's not going to be hopefully a dud. You know what I mean?
Right.
Hopefully it's going to be what we can see on, obviously a lot of star talent on both sides of the ball. I mean, obviously you have the youth in Cincinnati, and then you have the veterans.
And a really key, we talk about all these picks that have been traded, and how, let's be honest, outside of one player, which is getting to my point, none of the guys on the Rams have Super Bowl or deep playoff run experience. The trade to get Von Miller, it's kind of huge, because now at least you have one really well-respected veteran guy that's still playing. I think he led the league in beating his blocker rating this year. Whatever that stat's called, where you beat the blocker and you win that situation there. He's still playing at a pretty elite level. So having a pretty elite player that's been to the Super Bowl, that's won Super Bowls, it's pretty important there, isn't it? I mean, whatever you traded to get Von Miller may come back to be the most valuable of all the trades you made and all the draft picks you gave away, because he's that guy now that has the experience, that has been there, done that on this team.
Well, it's crazy. I mean, dude, you're just saying this and you just made me have another thought. Like, it's the tale of two philosophies. You have Cincinnati, who basically 90% of their team has been built through the draft. And then you have the Rams on the other side, who 90% of their team has been built free agency and trades and moves. Like, you couldn't have two separate philosophies. Like, it's like almost like two sides of the spectrum.
Absolutely.
Facing off. I mean, I don't think I've seen a bigger variation in that. Like, when you've had two teams in the Super Bowl, like, it's basically, I'm trying to think of a comparison in other Super Bowls where I go back and I look at like a young team that made it against a team that's like all veterans, and like, I'm trying to think of one.
Well, I mean, there have been. I do have a list of the the younger quarterbacks that have played in the Super Bowl, but it's very rare. I mean, that the young teams win. But I know what you're getting at with that. But George is bringing up an excellent point. The Miller is kind of like when we brought Chris Long here, that veteran leadership, the guy that's been there, done that. And actually, he only played a small percentage of snaps that year for us, Long, but he actually ranks in the top 5 of win percentage along the line from that season of all time, since they ever, I don't know when they started keeping track of win percentage for defensive ends and stuff like that. That leadership is so crucial. So, I mean, I personally have to think that the age factor wins out. The experience wins out. And, you know, the sense of urgency on these guys wins out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Long.
I mean, I don't know if we win. I mean, there's a lot of guys you could say we don't win that Super Bowl without.
Dude.
Chris Long would be up there in the top 5 of players that were on that team that we don't win the Super Bowl without on that roster.
I was at the NFC Championship against Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
And I remember
you every day.
Yeah, I was at that game. Probably the best game of my life, obviously. And I remember the play where he caused that interception that was returned back. I believe it was like 60 yards. I'm drawing a blank on the cornerback. It was a nickel corner, the slot guy. The cornerback that had the big interception in the NFC Championship game. Come on, Phil, help me out here.
Jalen Mills?
No.
I don't know.
He was not. He was like, huh?
I'm losing.
Yeah, I know. I can't remember. I hate when I
move on. Keep it going. Keep it going.
Anyway, that cornerback that had Chris Long forced that interception, and he was wreaking havoc all day. I believe he actually forced a fumble in that game as well. Like he was all over the field, and he doesn't get talked about as much as obviously Brandon Graham, who had the strip sack in the Super Bowl. But if you looked at that whole playoff series, like even in the Atlanta game, he was putting pressure on Matt Ryan all game. So I agree. Like guys like that, they don't always get talked about, but at the end of the day, they're guys that kind of lead that team to victories because of that leadership and kind of leading by example. And that's Von Miller. I mean, Von Miller, I think you had mentioned it in the middle of the season about Von Miller not being used as much in the regular season because they're saving him for the playoffs. I think you mentioned that.
Well, it's the same thing I talked about all year about Fletcher Cox. These guys, you got to protect them for this point in the season, and that's what they did. So I do have a point here. George is bringing up the Mixon takes the weight of the game off of Burrow. So I've got here the 4 youngest quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl, and 3 of the 4, 2 things are key that they won the Super Bowl: defense and strong running games. So Ben Roethlisberger, obviously at age 23, won a Super Bowl. Ben Roethlisberger did not have to do much. They had Jerome Bettis, Hall of Fame running back, a great defense there. You have obviously Patrick Mahomes at age 24. He obviously did a lot of that himself. He's that special. Tom Brady won his first Super Bowl at 24, but they won on defense and coaching and spreading the ball. It wasn't Tom Brady throwing 500 yards. And Russell Wilson at age 25, which is Joe Burrow's age. What did Russell Wilson? How did the Seahawks win? Defense and running the ball. So Joe Mixon, if the Bengals stand a chance, Joe Mixon and the defensive game plan of the Bengals is the way they win the ball. Joe Burrow and the Bengals do not win the game if Joe Burrow has to throw for 500 yards.
Yeah, I think if it's a shootout, I agree. I think the Rams definitely have the edge because even though Stafford has shown a propensity to throw a couple picks here and there, he showed me something in this postseason that I haven't seen from him as far as postseason play. Like the moxie that he's shown, like that game against Tampa when Tampa came all the way back and Brady brought Tampa back, and it was tied. And then, Matt comes out and just throws that bomb to Cooper Kupp. Like that connection between him and Kupp is extremely special. And I could see it being that kind of game where everyone's talking about Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. I could actually see this Super Bowl being like Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp being like the talk of the town at the end of the game. Like, wow, look at the game they had. Like, they're just that good. I mean, as far as Cooper Kupp right now, probably the best wide receiver in the NFL. I mean, today, if we're talking today.
Yep.
And he's a guy that came out of nowhere. I mean, 2nd round pick. Him and Devontae Adams, both 2nd round picks. So I think I agree. I think the only real chance that the Bengals have, I know it's funny because the whole world seems to be rooting for the Bengals because and I get it. I get it. I love Joe Burrow.
Blah.
I'm always kind of I'm playing George in this role. I'm being the devil's advocate, and I'm looking at the Rams.
So let's wrap this show because we're gonna have more time to talk more of this tomorrow and on Thursday with you. I want to have fun. Yesterday we talked halftime shows. Okay, today I want to talk about the announcers. Okay, obviously whoever wins, the bidding right to show the Super Bowl, they put their A team. This year it's NBC, Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth. Last year it was Tony Romo and Jim Nantz. You got the Joe Bucks and the Troy Aikmans. Who's your favorite of the recency? First off, your favorite announced team to call a Super Bowl. If you could pick one of the duos that are currently out there to call the Super Bowl, and going back, who would be your favorite duo that's ever probably called a Super Bowl that you remember? Don't go back to 1970. You obviously didn't watch the Super Bowl in 1970. Don't go with that. Who would be your favorite now, and in the last 20 or 30 years, who has been your favorite duo to call a Super Bowl?
Well, I think my favorite's the same. I love Al Michaels. I just can't stand Chris Collinsworth, so that's what makes it. I cannot stand him. Like during that Eagles Super Bowl, win, it was so annoying when he was like Brady this, Brady that, Gronk, just his the way that he kind of just, I don't want to say the word on this show. S is off.
Please don't.
S is off the other teams. It's just like it makes it hard to watch. But I love Al Michaels. I think he's a great announcer. I think he's always been a great announcer. I mean, obviously he's older now, but honestly, did John Madden ever call a Super Bowl?
He's called it with multiple people.
Remember,
he called it with Al Michaels and he called it with Pat Summerall.
So
Pat Summerall, John Madden. That's my favorite duo of all time.
Yeah.
But I actually think John Madden and Al Michaels worked really.
That's
really
the one
well
I'm
together.
talking about because that's the one I think I most remember.
I got the list here. Let me page up here. The last time he called the February 1st, 2009. I believe that was the Pittsburgh, Arizona Super Bowl. I want to say that. I might be wrong on that. I think that's what that was. But they were a great duo. They called that Super Bowl. They also called the 2006 Super Bowl and the 2003 Super Bowl. 2002 Super Bowl was Pat Summerall and John Madden the last time they worked together as a duo. I don't really like Chris Collinsworth either, but I don't get annoyed with him. I actually think people overrate or underrate Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. I know everybody in Philadelphia has an anti-Joe Buck, attitude because of what he's a Cowboys guy. You know what I mean? And he loves his Cowboys and he doesn't like the Eagles and stuff like that. But they do a really damn good job. They really do. And if we got to pick a pair, we're not saying we could just take Al Michaels and pair him with Troy Aikman or something like that. We're saying we got to take the pair. So out of the current crop, I would prefer a Joe Buck, Troy Aikman Super Bowl. I just would. But Al Michaels, John Madden, I know John Madden and Pat Summerall were great, but it was so long ago. The Al Michaels, John Madden pair, I think they worked so well together. They would probably be my favorite pairing of the recency last 20 years that called the Super Bowl. And we never really talked about it on the show, the fact that John Madden passed away this past year. So, which was sad to see and all, but I mean, he was as great of an announcer, if not better than a coach, and he was a great coach too.
Yeah, well, I think that's why the Al Michaels John Madden combination was so good because it's two of the best together.
Yeah.
I mean,
Al Michaels was so great.
Not that Pat Summerall was a great Robin to John Madden's Batman. I mean, but at the end of the day, like I said, Al Michaels has been doing this a long time too, and I'm with you. Chris Collinsworth just annoys me. I'm not saying he's bad because that combination actually does pretty well though. But I agree.
They've been together for a long time.
And you know what? You're right. I didn't list Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, but I do like Troy Aikman. I think a lot of people don't like him because of the playing on Dallas too. But I think Troy Aikman, if you want to ask me who do I think is a better announcer, I think Tony Romo was extremely overrated and overhyped out of the gate. And I think it showed this year. I think he went totally backwards. Like, I think everyone was just like the new shiny thing. Yeah, Aikman. I like Troy Aikman way better than Tony Romo. Yeah, and I think Troy Aikman will always be better than Tony Romo.
If you have to rate the analysts, the second, not the play-by-play guys, but the analysts, Joe Buck, Chris Collinsworth, Tony Romo, it probably goes Troy Aikman, Chris Collinsworth, Tony Romo in that order, 1, 2, 3, probably.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is crazy to think because everybody's so fired up and gets so pissed off and loves ragging on these guys so much, but what they do is not easy, not at all.
Yeah, I know the show's ending. I would like to give my best halftime show since you had the show yesterday.
Yeah, give
I
it
actually
real quick.
absolutely loved it. My all-time favorite halftime show, and I love this guy, was Prince doing Purple Rain.
That was Mark's favorite too. And Mark, this is from earlier in the show. Mark said Metallica needs to do a halftime show.
And I'll it's never gonna happen, but it's frustrating because for some reason metal rock is not ever really looked at in the Super Bowl.
Because the Super Bowl's a national thing, and they want to appease to non-football. We're gonna watch the Super Bowl whether Metallica performs or Beyonce performs. You know what I mean? They're trying to draw in the people, the wives, or the other people that aren't paying attention to football that are there for the commercials and the halftime show. Metallica isn't doing that.
No, but Metallica would be a good halftime show.
I only saw them once in concert, but it was at a festival, and I forget which one it was. We were talking, a long time ago, and they only did like a 45-minute set. But I would have loved to have seen them do a 2-hour.
Well, next time they come, I'm going to take you to Metallica.
We'll see. But anyway, so Prince is your number one performance.
Yeah, that was. I mean, that was just. I had chills down my spine. Like, I love guitar. You know me, I'm a guitar guy, and Prince is just everything about Prince was like, masterful. His singing, great voice, and obviously, great performer. I mean, to me, I know Michael Jackson gets talked of as being like the GOAT, like in that kind of respect as far as being an entertainer. But I think Prince is extremely slept on because of the fact that Prince plays an instrument. Michael Jackson didn't play guitar.
Right.
Like,
that's why I love the Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen was an entertainer, plays the guitar, he sings, he dances, he does a little bit of everything. And that's why I'm a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. I hate how he's so political nowadays. But that's why I just remember watching the Bruce Springsteen thing and Googling, like, how old's Bruce? He's 61 years old. How the hell is he putting that much energy out there at 61 years old and doing it so great? He still does it now in his 70s. That's why he took over on the Prince, because he's the performer that appealed to the football fans, but also appealed to the other fans too. He could draw in the outside fans, but also appease the football fans. The Prince almost falls into like the Metallica thing. He's not going to draw in the outside fans to watch a halftime performance. So I take all that into account when I'm picking my favorite performances. But I will say, like I said today, I don't know if you agree, or yesterday, I don't know if you agree, this year's performance could be up in there in that top 3 range if it goes well.
You think?
I think it can. I'm a big Eminem fan, and I'm a big Snoop and Dr. Dre fan. So that's like my childhood all over again, being lived on the Super Bowl.
I like, I love Eminem.
Yeah, one of the greatest rappers of all time.
And Dre, I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is like mid-90s, my mid-90s to early 2000s, high school and college all over again with this halftime show.
Well, it should be fun.
Anyway, yeah, we'll be back tomorrow, trending in the AM at 8:30 a.m. Myself and Jason will be back here with more Super Bowl talk. We'll recap the Sixers game, whatever else happens to pop up in the news by tomorrow morning at 8:30 a.m. We're brought to you here, as always, by Manscaped, the leader in men's grooming products. Check them out, manscaped.com. Promo code DSM at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. Thank you to everybody, Mark, George, Frederick, or Freddie Defo, and everybody else that checked in the comments and watched. Make sure you're sharing out the show, retweeting the show, following us on Twitter at Beard and Knowledge for me, at Mustang3651 for Jason, and make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube as the road to 500 continues. We are getting so close. We are 22 subscribers away from 500 on YouTube, and then once after we get to 500, it'll be the road to 600. We're just going to keep climbing and growing this morning show, and we'll be back tomorrow. Jason?
Make sure to check out Facebook, too. You're at 400.
Absolutely.
Get 500 on Facebook.
If you don't want to follow on YouTube, make sure you're following on Facebook. They're the only 2 ways to get involved in the conversation. Everybody have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow, and as we end every show,
Go Birds.
Go Birds.